Hello YouTube and hello Ninth Age community. This is Charles with Evershade Gaming and I've got another Ninth Age battle report. This is round 5 of the 4-City Fracas. My Ogre for some Dread Elves. Friends, let's get into it. Round 5 at the 4-City Fracas. My last round, I was going into it with about 46 or so points, I believe. So I was definitely not in range of winning the event. We kind of knew who the top table was, and we knew that the result was one of those two from that game. They were just very far ahead. So we're also looking to go into this, to have a good time, to play against a good opponent, and I couldn't have drawn a better opponent. Got Mr. Ben Ryder from Canada, actually a local from the London, Ontario scene, and he brought his Dread Elves, which was a really amazing, excellently both cohesive, two idiots, the miniature group, a lot of their prints from, I want to say it's maybe Scottish Knight who made these miniatures, these 3D miniatures, but a lot of theirs, and he had these really incredible Mist Leviathans, but he's basically running an all infantry Dread Elf list with 2 Mist Leviathans for the production from shooting, and he's got a almost naked prince, but with like Kingslayer on maybe a halberd, and then a almost naked Selexing Officer General, and then he's got 2 wizard adepts that are both the Temple Exarchs. So really cool list. No BSB, just relying on the Obsidian Guard for the rerolls, and I think a couple magic items to help out with maybe giving a minimized 6 inches or something like that too with the Ring of the Obsidian Throne. So very different Dread Elf list than what I played before, and very cool. So his Divination Temple Exarch had Scrying and Stars Align and Curse of the Phantom Queen, she's the magical heirloom, and then his Alchemy one had Glory of Gold and Word of Iron. So this made me realize my opponent wanted to get into combat, and my shooting ogres did not want that to happen. So my opponent actually got to pick table sides and then offered to let me deploy first, which I greedily took. Even knowing that this meant he was going to get a good counter deployment, I figured I was going to be able to get some kind of shooting in, just since he did choose the side with the hill, and we played, or sorry, no, I got to pick table sides. That's right. We're playing in circle, and we're playing flags, and I picked big middle, giving my opponent big flanks, which suited me well on this side of the board, and because not too much cover on his. And yeah, I just kind of went for, he ended up letting me deploy first, which I was very grateful for. So I put my scraplings down on the left, I put a cannon and a scratbolt on the front there, I put my big block of tribesmen behind a wall with my dog next to them. I have my bruiser in the 5-pack of tribesmen so that he can hopefully shoot at something other than everybody else, and maybe pick on some Mist Leviathans. I have my 3 bombardiers next to them. I have my other cannon and scratbolt on the front line, and then I have my unit of 4 bombardiers on my right flank. That's a good shot of where all my characters are at. I've got both shamans next to each other, and the Great Council and the tribesmen. Figured, the magic should be front and center right now. And then I've got my BSB in his own unit, so again, he can use his crossbow with Viper's Curse somewhere else. And I trapped this water feature in this room, which was pretty cool, but this is also not capturing my opponent's deployment. So he's got 20 spears on the left there with a Mist Leviathan behind, and my opponent perfectly deployed everything so that everything had 8 inches from the Mist Leviathans for that hard target turn 1. So definitely my quest was kill Mist Leviathans turn 1, and he put he had 3 units of auxiliaries, 1 in the middle in front of some Obsidian Guard with his prince and his one of his Temple Exarchs. I want to say the Div one was in that unit, or no, the Alchemy one was in that unit, and then another one behind that field, and with his Judicators, with his Selexing Officer and his other Temple Exarch, and then his other Mist Leviathan behind that building. his other unit of auxiliaries who were just, or not even just, they had some space to be able to get behind that building since he had the big flanks, or in front of the building because of the big flanks, and then his another unit of 20 spears and another unit of obsidian guards. So very well deployed. Everything was kind of well spaced out. Not going to have to worry about too many panic tests. Good kind of BSB coverage with the Slexian officers. Perfectly got all his hard target everywhere he needed to be. It was very well deployed. That's a nice shot of his auxiliaries and his prince and one of his temple exarchs, and then his Slexian officer and his other temple exarch and his judicators, which everything he's painted looks fantastic. Which I know Ben's been involved in the slow grow group that has been happening in London too. So, and I believe these are his dread elves for it. So he's been slowly kind of working on them over the last 6 months or so. So yeah, it's definitely coming along nice for him. OgreCon's turn 1. I have all my artillery pieces turned to face different things. My cannons are going to try and kill one Mist Leviathan if they can. Scratapults are going to work on some auxiliaries if they can. The Bombardiers move again to see what shots they can hit. And other than that, yeah, Magic's moves up to just... I'm kind of mostly focused on the auxiliaries because the shooting is kind of annoying at the beginning of the game. So see if I can get rid of that. Get a Hand of Heaven, I think kills a auxiliary. Put Flaming Swords on a Scratapult. And then other than that, that's about it. And then we go into the shooting phase. It's super lucky turn 1. And I kill the whole Mist Leviathan. It was really good. One cannon was on a 5, and the other cannon I think was on a 4. So we're lucky to pull that bad boy off. But that is huge, because that does help by shooting a bit in the center and the other sides. Kill 4 spears with my 4 bombardiers, or maybe this was my Scratapult. Actually, I think that was my Scratapult, and then I think I shoot a couple auxiliaries off with the bombardiers. And I do panic this other auxiliary unit, I think with the 3 bombardiers, who shot better. They don't quite go off the board, which is a bummer. That would have been nice since they're scoring. But hey, getting them fleeing turn 1 is good. And then they rally on his turn 1. No charges for the Dread Elves, so he does move up on the different parts of the board. He moved up aggressively, especially on the right here, and it was so tempting to want to charge. These Dread Elves are just so good in combat that, I don't know, didn't quite know if it felt like the right move or not. Felt like getting into combat would just be giving him what he wants. So we'll see what I do on my next turn. But other than that, he just moves up aggressively everywhere. Ignores the rune where he can. And yeah, so not a whole lot really happens on his turn because, again, he's got some auxiliaries. They pepper some shots, do a couple wounds here or there. You can see he's got one on, I think, both Scratapults. But other than that, they just don't really have enough shooting to do a whole lot, and he doesn't have any offensive magic. I'm pretty much stopping his hereditary spell, and then he's getting off maybe, I think he got scrying off instead. So, and I'm just not going to shoot where he's got extra hard target, essentially. So yeah, I think he gets scrying off in this bubble. So we go into my turn, which actually you can see my movement here. I think this... Yeah, this is my movement. So I move up one of my 3 packs of bombardiers to shoot the auxiliaries within 12. I turn my cannons to shoot at his Mist Leviathan, because again, I really want to get rid of those. They're so troublesome. And then I pretty much just make sure that if he is going to charge things, I can have places to flee, because I just don't want to get into combat with these elves, these Dread Elves. I'm really terrified of just him. I've seen a lot of these artillery pieces just get beat up by a lot less. So, combat Dread Elves, I think, are not the place to be. But, yeah, I pretty much just turn where I can. I've got some other shots where I can on some other things, so we'll see how the shooting goes. I want to say I pick on this unit with some kind of magic. Not sure what it was. Maybe that was a blaze, kills a guy. Flaming swords on these bombardiers, so we're nice and close. And then, other than that, that's about it. So this is actually already going to my turn. So I don't think my shooting turn 2 was very impressive. I want to say this cannon hits and does 3 wounds on this Mist Leviathan. And then other than that, I want to say I might get some partial hits in a couple places. My Bombardiers with Flaming Swords, I think only kill like 3 or 4 auxiliaries. Yeah, it was not particularly impressive. Yeah, you can see those auxiliaries are down to 5, but that's about it. So he charges these Bombardiers who flee and get to be about here. This looks like I did chaff those auxiliaries too. And then other than that, I pretty much stayed put with everything. I think these guys get pushed again by those spears, but they don't fall off the board, so that was fortunate. And yeah, he charged these spears in the Smith's Leviathan at the other Scratapult and the other cannon on the other side. They all fled. They all stayed on the board. And this is where the rest of his movement is. Moving up in the middle tentatively. He's kind of giving me some long charges with the Tribesman, but kind of respecting the fact that I've got, 3d3 impact hits in the front rank. And again, I've got more health points in that unit than any of his other units, but I also had to be careful because, I can't take multiple of those units on at once, and if he gets more than one in, that could be very dicey for me. I could probably take those units one at a time, but that's about it. And where I am, I'm behind a wall, a hill right now, which is very nice. So I'm getting like distracting and parry, all very good. Definitely mitigates a lot of his damage. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. He gets Stars Align on this unit of auxiliaries. And they kind of work on these scrapplings since they're one of my softer scoring units. This unit's just kind of been puttering and trying to move in a place where it's not going to block things from fleas, but also in a place where it can start sort of just moving away because I don't want it to fight anything. It's too squishy. He charged with these auxiliaries and the trappers, killed them, and made like a 7-inch overrun, I think, into the Scratapult, which again wasn't great. I was tempted to move back, but then I just don't like taking a penalty. But in hindsight, it's like better to move back than not get charged. So that also was not great. And then going into my turn too, I have this Thunder Cannon fail. I think just a straight discipline 7. It had no rerolls. I should have moved my general over or something, but I didn't make way. So unfortunately, I get a cannon go off, and this Scratapult goes off too. Discipline 9 with a reroll just fails that too. It goes off. So now I'm actually kind of feeling like I'm feeling a lot smaller all of a sudden, and not really enjoying the places where I put myself. Just backing up where I can, keeping arcs where I can. I decided to move my Thunder Cannon again. I feel like it just was in a bad spot where it was like, if I move back, I'm still going to get charged. So I kind of wanted to use it as chaff. So it moves up to, it's just going to volley gun these Obsidian Guard, who have been reduced somewhat. They've gotten some shots from Bombardiers on them, and they've been reduced somewhat. My other Bombardiers do rally, thankfully, so that's good. So I do have a lot of Bombardiers left, but yeah, I am setting up a flank charge from those Judicators. It's like a medium-ish charge for him. I think he might need like a 7 on the dice, 7 or an 8. But I actually want him to try and like go into the runes and take some DTs and whatnot to take some wounds. But yeah, we'll see how that works out for me. Get a fireball, get a hand of heaven, do some more damage. After shooting, there's 6 Obsidian Guard left, which was pretty good. I wouldn't have mind killing a little bit more, but yeah, I can't complain entirely. I've reduced these spearmen and I've reduced these Obsidian Guard on the right down. I'm really focused on this right side of the field. The center is kind of just no man's land. The right side is where all the action is. We get into this combat and like, I mean, he's charging. I kill 3 of them with the Scrapling and the Rhino, and then he sticks. I think on like a must have been like a 5, no, a 6, which was really not what I wanted. really terrible. So yeah, this was quite terrible. Um, he makes a couple long charges here, I think, with these spears into these scrapplings. I stand and shoot. He fails, thankfully. If I fled, I was probably gonna go off the board. Um, yeah, so they stumble forward a bit. He makes his long charge with his obsidian, his judicators, and he also wisely charges his obsidian guard too, and pops the extra DTs on the obsidian guard. But I think he loses one or two obsidian guard, and I think he loses like one judicator going through the rune. So not really that bad at all. And this just looks like terrible because he can fight this cannon, he can fight this Scratapult, and then I think he even has a way to maybe get in. Yeah, he's probably got a charge on the Bombardiers. It's really bad. It just looks horrendous. And I'm thinking like, oh, I'm about to lose this game so bad right now. Um, yeah, so that was not looking good. Yeah, you can see just a couple guys. He gets Word of Iron on these Obsidian Guard to protect them, I think, just for magic damage. Again, mostly stopping his Hereditary, and then he gets a couple little buffs off. He keeps working on these scrapplings with his auxiliaries. And this was huge, because this is after overruns. So, I mean, he kills the cannon, no problem. And then he overruns with the adjudicators. He needs like a 5, I think. And he rolls a 3. Maybe, it's maybe a little bit more than a 4. But he's like a little bit over an inch away. And I'm breathing a huge sigh of relief, because I thought my whole right side was about to just completely fall apart, and I was losing my mind. So I get very lucky there. And I kill that, a single auxiliary with all my attacks, and I charge those spearmen with Scratapult, and now I'm able to move up like my bombardiers. I got like 7 bombardier shots that are about to blow into this Judicator unit, who they're not even in the rune. I move my Thaumaturgy mage out to like fireball and breath weapon. I'm about to put everything into these guys and just try and wipe them off the board. Super, super lucky. I can't even overstate that enough, how incredibly game turning that single, him not making a 5-inch overrun into that Scratapult was. I chaff up his spears, and I also chaff up his I charged his auxiliaries with my Great Khan, because I wanted to charge something, but I just felt like this big unit of tribesmen it's like sometimes there's too many points just to risk throwing it out in the middle of the field and seeing where it sticks. So his auxiliaries fled not very far. I caught them with my Great Khan, and he's just sitting in front of those Obsidian Guard, which again, it's a pretty tough matchup. But if anyone can do it, he's got a 4-page save. He's kind of the best person to throw into it. Other than that, I just moving things back. Those scraplings are retreating. My BSB is wants to try and put some wounds on that big Miss Leviathan, and maybe a hand of heaven at that thing. But I was really, again, the right side of the board had so much my focus that sometimes the middle and the left was like, I don't even know what's going on over there. I get a Pyroclastic Flow, kill some of these guys, and then I use my breath weapon. I use all my shots, and he's got his 2 characters live, which I was like really salty about this at the time. I mean, it was great to wipe this unit out, but so it was like, it was so weird. I think I did a Pyroclastic Flow, and he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 8 dudes left. And then I think I did the breath weapon, and I only killed like 1 or something like that. And then I did the 3 bombardiers, and they rolled like utter dog shit, and only killed again like 2 or 3. He had like 4 left in his character, so I could put wounds on him. But I rolled like 15 or 16 shots at the other ones, and I still got to put like 3 or 4 wounds on like 3 or 4 dice on each one. And I want to say his Exarch took like a wound going through the rune, so I needed to do 2 wounds to her. I have 4 dice wounding on 3s. I don't do any wounds to her. And then I have 3 dice on the officer. He hasn't taken any wounds, and I do 3 wounds, and he makes like a 6-up armor save. It was just like at the time I was like I couldn't believe how that had turned out, but at the same time I'm like it was still huge. So regardless, it's huge that the Judicators are gone, and he's just got 2 like naked characters on the open who really can't take a stand and shoot from either of those bombardier units without just possibly getting killed. And of course, those like I think I was able to kill another Obsidian Guard, so it's like they're really reduced. It's going well over here. This was this was another. We had wonky dice all over this game, like both of us. Both of us were rolling like insanely wonky, either extremely hot 1 second and then extremely cold the next. And this was one of my cold moments. This catapult goes in, does like gets like 3 impact hits, does 1 wound. The scraplings do like a wound or 2. He makes 2 armor saves. The rhino does like gets like 3 hits, does another single wound. It was like really weird dice. I think he pokes 1 back on me, and then like I'm still winning by like 2, I think, because he doesn't have any banners. And then like he just passes like another like it's probably like discipline. His general's right there, so it's like discipline 8. But it was just like what 6 spearmen, a cherry going into 6 spearmen, and I get stuck there. It was so weird. So he moves his characters into the ruin here. He charges the flank of the Scratapult with the Obsidian Guard, which I was like, well, there goes a Scratapult. And then other than that, we got more bystanders watching us. He puts his spears and his Missile Leviathan into the dog. And he's going to try and get a flank charge for some extra combat res on my Great Khan. And he moves up his auxiliaries to shoot my Pyromancy dude. He does get Curse of the Phantom Queen off this turn. I kind of finally let that go. There were other things to stop. And he does get Glory Gold off. Not great, but it's whatever. I've kind of already consigned, well, and there it is, his fate. I was going to say, I already consigned this Great Khan for his death. Seeing what was going to happen. I issue a duel. He accepts with this champion. I gotta roll like wonky here too, and I think I do 3 wounds. So it's like my impact hit killed him, or no, he charged me. I think he does he might even, I think he does like a wound or 2, and I think I make my saves, but he might have done a wound with his champion. And then I think with all my attacks and my stomp, I think I only do like 3 wounds. Like I hit very poorly. I think I only wound like once, but then I get like a multi-wound 2, and then on my stomp wounds. So it was like really weird because I didn't do my max overkill. And then he's got like 2 ranks and a flank. I was down by like, I think only 2, and I couldn't pass a discipline 7. And I think my BSB was out of range for a reroll, which was probably on me, like bad play. But he ends up killing him. He overruns with the Mist Leviathan. Which now I think about the Mist Leviathan goes this way, which I think we played that wrong. Or no, I break. That's right. So I broke, but he catches me with the Mist Leviathan. He thought about doing the Obsidian Guard, but then was like, if I don't make it, like, it could not be great. I think he ended up like rolling it just for his own pleasure and would have made it, which would have been terrible. But and this is, I think, just turn 5, and we knew we were going to be on our last turn. As you could see, we had bystanders. We were, again, I don't know why I was playing so slow on Sunday. I didn't even drink that much on Saturday night. Yeah, so this is my last turn. I want to say, I think this is like the last turn we play, and then on his turn, I think he just does some rallies. I don't know. I feel like we didn't play this very well either. So, yes. Somehow that Scratapult didn't die against those Obsidian Guard, and like sticks or does enough damage to tie. It was really weird too. It was just weird fights all over this game. I charged my tribesmen into his characters just to pick them off since they are pretty reduced. Yeah. It's just like this end of the game was kind of goofy. Move my Pyromancy Wizard over to do some blasting. Yep, here's the charge. End of the game is pretty much the spearmen are fleeing, or the Obsidian Guard. I think the Obsidian Guard. I think I killed the Spearman and a couple of Obsidian Guard are fleeing. I kill his Temple Exarch with my Tribesman, just like pretty much impact hits. She only had like a wound left. And I get into his General. I make the Temple, the Auxiliaries flee. We kill the Miss Leviathan because we had Flaming Swords up. And yes, I think his end of his turn is basically him just doing some rallies. And then we like called it there because we were just like running out of time again. Which again, I feel like I can't remember if I was like slow playing this one again, but yeah, suffice to say, I don't think shooting ogres are my thing. Which I actually have a couple lists that I'd like to talk about in lieu of that, but let's wrap up the rest of the tournament. So this ends up leaving me on 60 points after we finish this game. I got a 14-6, which actually catapults me into 6th place. So I kind of just made the top 25% of the tournament. Mr. Andrew Ratman won the tournament with a nice 83 points overall. Him and John Oakes were going into the last round to determine the winner, essentially. And then Mike was coming up behind, but I think Andrew got a pretty decisive win against John, too. So that was the tournament. That was my round 5. What am I going to do going forward with this Ogre shooting list? So, I mean, I ran just a variation of the shooting list that kind of exists out there for Ogres. And the 2 Wizards were fine, but I don't think they really did it, unfortunately. I think you're better off with a Master. And I was actually quite impressed with the Pyromancy, though. I found the Blazes to be very effective at putting those chip wounds. I found just all the missiles very, useful. So if I was going to rewrite this list, take the same list of the tournament, I would pretty much just drop those Wizards into 1. Give him Liger's Tongue, because that's so good. Give him Essence for a nice armor save. Give him Ritual Bloodlighter to make him a little better in combat. And then, I would keep my Great Khan the same. He was fine. I think he had a crossbow, but I would just give him pistols I think I had 5 points to give him, or 10 points to give him pistols. And then I kept the BSB the same. I wasn't in love with this BSB build, to be honest. I gave him the Dragonfire Gem, which is nice, but I don't know. The Ogre crossbow with the Vigar's Curse is nice, but sometimes you're just in combat all the time, or you're marching. So I feel like I didn't really shoot with my BSB a whole lot, and then when I did, it didn't always do a whole lot, but it is a nice extra shooting tool to have, so I would probably keep it, but I do need to rewrite the core. The big block is nice, but you need more threats in this game. So added 8 bruisers in. This is kind of the standard core for the shooting list. And then you are relying on your bombardiers to be your other scoring units too. So a little bit different. I didn't hate the scrappling unit. I actually felt like sometimes it was really useful. And at the same time, sometimes I think just the Ogres are still better. So I have 8 bruisers, 8 tribesmen in core instead of the 10 bruisers, 5 tribesmen, scrappling trappers. So I do lose a scoring unit in this setup, but I think it might be interesting. Or I think this is the standard essentially for this shooting list. And you can go either Pyro or Thaumaturgy. But I was actually quite impressed with Pyro, although I think Thaum is maybe the better lore. And then I was kind of just playing around. I actually won the door prize at the event, or one of the 2 door prizes. So I picked up a box of 4 more Tusker Cav and another big monster. So I kind of was like, what would it be like if you put a Frost Mammoth in this list? Because, one of the things I was not impressed with, I feel like my Scratapults were just not doing it for me this weekend. And that's not to say I think Scratapults are bad. I think they're solid what they do. Where I was actually rather quite impressed with the cannons. I hadn't run cannons in a while, and they did some serious work across this game, all across these games. So I kind of was like, what if you just dropped the Scratapults, put a Frost Mammoth in? It's a little bit different. I don't know if it really syncs that well with this list, since there is a lot of Initiative 0 anyway. The Bruisers and the Great Khan. But at the same place, I do think this is an interesting variation. It's a little bit more mixed arms almost. I think the addition of just a single monster is kind of nice to give you even just like a different threat kind of thing. Since, I mean, the reason we take Frost Mammoths is because they're agility debuff, right? But it is a good monster, and it does have 2 Ogre crossbows on its back, so I thought this was an interesting variation to be a little bit less shooty, a little bit more combat, more mixed arms focused, and just to give me something else that can like fight, because that was one of my biggest bugaboos at this list, because I feel like I didn't have anything that could really fight besides one unit, and I feel like that unit had a lot to do every single game. And I think sometimes I misplayed that unit quite a bit too, because I was like, this is the only thing that can do anything. If I risk it, if I lose it, like that's gonna be really scary. Where, yeah, I think I kind of missed having things that I could kind of risk certain plays with, but not necessarily, lose the game if that risk didn't play off. So, but yeah, those are my thoughts. Thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you soon for another 9th Age Battle Report. Have a good one.